because like you talked that story about on Thanksgiving Day, how everybody else was drained and you're still on fire. And I agree that there's such a huge difference between taking action and having true, inspired action, right? And once you find that clarity of purpose, that inspired action really comes into play. But a lot of people, they don't really, they have a difficult time discovering what that purpose is, what they're truly passionate about. I talk to a lot of people that's like, hey, when I first got into business, it was about the money. Like they had a young, family they had to support and they were passionate about it because they were passionate about creating opportunities for their kids. Now their kids are out of the house, self-sustaining on their own. And they're like, man, I can't get this fire back, right? So like, what kind of advice do you give somebody that's having a difficult time finding that purpose or finding that passion that just is really having a difficult time with that?
So, and depending on how long we have, I might give you a step-by-step plan on exactly what I would do. But first, the biggest thing that I can share with you is that what I've found through working with so many clients is most people fear that they can't make money doing what they love. So they focus on something that they know they can make tangible money out of. But what happens is they end up making less money doing that. The amount of people I've worked with where I've got them back to what they're passionate about and they've actually made more money than they ever thought possible just because they were focused on what they were passionate about. Opportunities started to present themselves. And actually, I'm sure everybody listening probably knows Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey won this major award at his university. And he had this really long speech. And it was amazing, the speech. But he said something in the middle of it that made such an impact on me. He said his father was a really funny man. He could have been an amazing comedian. But he decided to take the safe choice and become an accountant instead. Many years later, his dad was laid off and his family had to do what they had to do to survive. He learned a great deal of things from his father, but nothing more important than you can fail at what you don't want. So why not take a chance at what you love? What happens is every single time I work with somebody, I find that they're either working on a project that they're less excited about but think they can make money out of. And then as soon as they transition, they actually make more money quicker focusing on what the thing they are passionate about. Or they do what's called hedging. Now, we learn about hedging growing up, right? It's how you invest in shares. You hedge in all these different shares, and that way you don't lose your shirt on one of them. Well, here's the news. You've got small amounts of resources, small amounts of time, small amounts of finances. So if you've got your passion project over here that you're working on, but you're also doing this thing that you know you can make money out of, now your 126 bits of information are focused in two directions. You're not going to be as successful as you need to. So my suggestion to everybody, and I've worked with people that have got kids, and my consulting model is I work with people for 6 hours over 6 weeks, and we get to an ROI in that period of time. And I've never worked with a business except for somebody that's just starting brand new product and they've got to develop the product that hasn't been able to transition in that time. Because what it is as soon as you've got that avalanche of energy, you find it flows, right? I've had people that they wouldn't separate from the thing they were passionate about versus the thing they could make money out of. And I said, cool, write a blog article on both. So of course they go to the one they can make money out of first, and it takes them 2 days to do it. Then they come back to me and they say, okay, that one did. I'm not sure if I'll have enough time to write the other. And I say, well, why don't you try? You've got a few hours. It flows out of them and they've written it because now we can be a lot more productive. So the thing that most people struggle with is when they're focused on the thing that they can make money out of is they start to encapsulate it based on what their functional skill is. So they'll say, oh, I'm a business coach, or I'm a branding expert, or I'm a marketing specialist, or I'm a podcaster, or a writer, or a videographer. The problem with that is it's external faced and you become a commodity. Everybody is going to be a commodity when they're focused on just the features and benefits of what they do. It's about bringing it back to center. And I'll give you an example because I'm a big believer that everybody has a unique set of skills and competencies that makes them vastly different. And because you've got a commercial real estate audience, I can give you an example for that at the end. But I had a client, Wendy, who was a language coach out of California. And she taught kids and adults how to learn Mandarin. And she came to me and she said, Matt, I've got a real problem. There's lots of people moving into California that want to teach Mandarin and they're willing to charge $30 to $40 an hour when I'm charging $50 to $80. I'm also struggling with all these people on Craigslist now from China willing to do it at $10 to $15 an hour. I mean, we live in a global economy now, right? How can I compete in this crowded market? My response was, that no one wins in a battle to the bottom based on price, right? You need to avoid the battle altogether. So I looked at all the clients she had, and she had hundreds of them where she was working with them on teaching them Mandarin. But there were 2 clients where she helped them. She helped them with 3 other things, and they were executives being relocated across to China. The first thing she helped them with was this concept called Galaxy. Now, when I talk about Galaxy to people in the US or Australia, they're like, oh, you're talking about outer space. No, this is actually their version, or the Chinese version of rapport. So if I was going to sit down with you and have a conversation about selling you something, if I was a bad salesperson, at the end of that meeting, I would say, so do you want to buy from me? And you would either say yes, no, or our favorite, let me think about it. And if you said, let me think about it, I'd call you back a week from now and ask you the same question. If you told me you wanted to think about it again, well, the chances of me getting that sale are getting less and less, right? So instead, when you go to China, they probably want to meet with you 5 or 6 times before they even talk business. They're probably going to want to see you drunk over karaoke once or twice. Now, the reason for this is they're talking not transactional or 12 or 24-month deals. They're talking about 50 to 100-year contracts. It's longer than a lot of people's lives and marriages. They want to know the kind of person they're getting into bed with. The second thing she helped them understand was the difference between e-commerce in China and e-commerce in the Western world. And the third thing she helped them understand was the importance of respect. She helped them understand that learning the language wasn't enough. Unless they tried to reduce their accent, then they would be seen as disrespectful. It's the same as I spoke at Electrolux in front of 100 vice presidents. And if you hand somebody a card or they hand you a card, you're supposed to hold it, cherish it, look at it, every detail, flip it over, look at the entire back before pulling out your card case, putting it in, slightly bowing, and then putting it in your pocket. Anything less than that, you're not doing business in China. And I said, Wendy, you're doing so much more for these people than just pure language coaching. What are you doing? She said, Matt, they're just a few things. I'm like, Wendy, you're stuck in your functional skill. Is it fair to assume as a result of these things, these people are going to be more successful when they get to China? She said, well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. I said, great. Why wouldn't we call you the China Success Coach then? And why wouldn't we call your program, forget about Mandarin, let that go to the $10 an hour people. Let's call it the China Success Intensive, and let's focus on these skills. So we created this program. It was a 5-week program that worked with the executive, the spouse, and any children being relocated across to China. Now, why the spouse and the children? Well, we can charge more. We're in business. We like to do that. But secondly, you think about it. You've got the spouse and the children going there. They're not going to be successful when they get there. The executive is going to get called home. It's important the whole family unit is successful when they get there. So she then said, well, this sounds great. How would I find customers? Do I reach out to executives? I said, no, they're not your customer. She said, you're right, the corporation. I said, still not your customer. She said, well, then who? And I said, well, who you'd reach out to if it was me was the immigration attorney. See, for me, when I moved to the United States, I had to get a visa and then I had to get a green card. Anyone going to China has to do the exact same. So we did. She reached out to these people and she said, how would you like to make a $3,000 commission for any successful introduction to the China Success Coach? They said, well, that's great. What would I have to say? I mean, $3,000 to $5,000 is all I make for doing all the bureaucracy, all the paperwork, and finding the client to do a visa. And she simply said, all you would need to say is, congratulations, you've now got your visa. I just want to double check. Are you as ready as possible to be relocated across to China? And they would respond, yeah, we've got our visa now, thank you. We've learned the language. We're getting pretty good at it. We've got our place organized. I think we're good. And she would simply get them to respond, there's a lot more to it than that. I think you need to speak to the China Success Coach. Now, these people were terrified about going to China. I mean, I was terrified coming from Australia to America, and we even speak the same language. The corporations had so much money riding on it, they were open to any idea that was going to make them more successful. So when he got on the phone for a $3,000 commission check to the easiest customers in the world, and her program was $30,000, so she made $27,000 after commission for the easiest sale in the world. That's the power of a unified message. See, if Wendy had started with sales, she would have already lost. So if you think about it, Wendy focused on Mandarin and she had these unique skills that were external to what her functional skill was. And everybody comes from unique educations, unique upbringings, unique past customer experiences that uniquely qualify them to help a certain group of people with amazing things. And for Wendy, she grabbed all of those things for Galaxy, e-commerce, and respect. And the higher level benefit of that was China Success. For me, I'm a business coach, a branding expert, social media strategist, a sales trainer, a master in neuro-linguistic programming. I'm too many things and nobody cares. But when I talk about my high level benefit, that I help organizations large and small obtain rapid growth. I'm the rapid growth guy. The simplicity of that message gets me heard in a crowded market. So what happens is by discovering what you're passionate about and working out what unique skill sets you have, all of a sudden you can tap into a marketplace and message that marketplace in a unique way to a group of customers that are willing to pay you a premium to work with you. And that's why you can feel comfortable moving to doing what you're passionate about, regardless of what stage in your life you're at, because there is no risk as long as you follow the entire process of making sure you do what you love and you're passionate about it, and you're connected to that, and then crafting a message and then communicating that in the most effective way.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. It's so brilliant, because entrepreneurship, it can be, depending on the business that you're in, it can be such a crowded space. And as you said, so many people have that mentality of the race to the bottom where nobody wins, instead of identifying, connecting the dots and identifying that value and just repositioning. What would you say when you're working with, and I know you just gave that in-depth story with Wendy, but when you've successfully helped over 3,500 small business owners, entrepreneurs go out there and rapidly increase their profit. What would you say, and I know that this might be tough, but what would you say are the top three things, the top three mistakes, if you will, that they're making? Because a lot of them are brilliant at what they do. They're just not positioning themselves, like you talked about with Wendy, in the correct manner. What would you say those top three mistakes are that these entrepreneurs are doing, that once they correct these, it just skyrockets their business into that rapid growth? Definitely.
So the first thing is, most people are so unaligned with their passion and why they do what they do that there's no drive there. There's no excitement. It almost becomes impossible to articulate what you do in a unified way, because it doesn't get you into your flow. So it's so important that people really align with their passions and their whys. The second thing is, most people just don't spend any time on their marketing. It's embarrassing that, I've got a 5-step template where I take people through, and I do this, if you go to matthewpollard.com/growth, you can download this 5-step process that'll talk you right through how to create your unified message and discover your niche of willing to buy clients. But I did this at the National Freelance Conference in front of nearly 190, maybe 200 small businesses that were all freelancers. And we spent 45 minutes doing this template. And at the end of it, I said, now who here has got a unified message that they feel more comfortable with, that they feel that would really easily help them get more customers? About 97% of the room put their hands up. Now, some of those people have since gone on to double the size of their business, and I've got testimonials for that. But the saddest part about this is, I said, now keep your hand up if this is more time than you've spent on marketing since you started your business. 85% of the room kept their hands up. That's horrific. What that means is that we focus on our functional skill and we don't focus on our marketing. So we don't craft our unified message. We don't look for a niche of willing to buy clients. We say, oh no, I'm just going to sell to everyone until I find my feet. Well, news for you. Why are you selling to everybody? There are people more experienced out there, outselling you, beating you on price, and you're always going to lose. Unless you discover a niche of willing to buy clients, you're always going to be fighting a losing battle either on price or disqualification because you're not the most experienced, right? My education company, we sold to tradespeople, right? People that worked on a building site. We understood our customers better than they understood themselves. And because of that, we made more sales. If we had just been a school like anyone else, then we would have had a really tough time to show people why we were the best for the job. So for me, it's understand what you're passionate about. Then work out what your unified message is and what your niche is, right? And spend the time doing it. Like everybody that's listening, just block out 4 hours. It doesn't take long. If you spend 4 hours, just block out that time, block it out in your calendar in the next month. Forget about goals. Why is the key to success? It's a podcast, right? Go to episode 17 of Better Business Coach, download it and do the exercise. Then go to matthewpollard.com/growth. It's a free worksheet. Go through the 5 steps to creating your unified message and your niche of willing to buy clients. And you'll be so far down the path of where you need to be. And then the next thing that people do wrong is they avoid learning how to sell. They buy into this concept that they're either a good salesperson or a bad salesperson, and they let that own them. Now, Brian Tracy, who's endorsed my book, talks about the fact that the top 10% of all sales performers have a planned presentation. Yet, introverts and extroverts alike quite frequently never learn how to have a planned process, a step-by-step process that leads to a sale. Most introverts assume that they can't do it, so they awkwardly approach a sale. They have an uncomfortable process, and then they have to do that hard close, which I would never suggest anyone does. It makes me feel disgusting if I'd have to do it, right? So it's about learning that sales process that takes you step by step through to a place that just naturally progresses into a sale. But most people don't understand that it's something they can learn. They don't understand that it's a skill just like any other that can be learned, mastered, and perfected.